Have you ever thought about why Paul told children to obey their parents in the Lord in Ephesians 6? 1. Why not just say, obey your parents, and leave it at that? There's something deeper going on here, and I'll show you. Paul, writing to the Christians in Ephesus, said, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." Those three little words, in the Lord, carry a lot more weight than you might expect. Now, you might wonder, what does in the Lord even mean? Is it about the parents, the children, or something else? Let's explore it together. First, it helps to know that Paul, in this part of Ephesians, is talking about relationships, marriage, family, and even how servants and masters treated each other back then. Each group was given special instructions on how to live out their faith inside their everyday lives. But when Paul said, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord," he wasn't just telling kids to do whatever their parents said, no matter what. He was giving a limit and a direction to their obedience. Think about it like this. Imagine you are riding your bike on a path. The path is the Lord's will. As long as you stay on the path, you are safe. You are doing what you are supposed to. But if your parents tell you to ride off a cliff, would you obey them? Of course not. Why? Because that's not in the Lord. It's not part of his path. You see, Paul was not saying obey your parents because they are perfect. He was saying obey your parents because doing so pleases the Lord when what they ask lines up with God's will. It is obedience guided by faith, not blind loyalty. In fact, many smart Bible scholars have pointed this out. One explained it this way: in the Lord doesn't describe the parents. It describes how the children are to obey. Obedience must fit within the boundaries God has set. It's like being a soldier. A good soldier follows orders, but not if the order is illegal. In the same way, a Christian child should honor and obey their parents, but only in a way that stays faithful to Christ. Now you might say, but weren't these children very young? Some probably were. But remember, Paul was writing to the saints, the believers. These children were part of the church family. Many had likely been baptized themselves or were being raised by faithful Christian parents. One Bible writer even pointed out that children were treated as real members of the church, not just future Christians. They were called to live out their faith from a young age. Isn't that encouraging? Also, notice what Paul says just a little later in Ephesians 6:4. Parents are commanded to bring their children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Parents are supposed to raise their kids in a way that points them to Jesus. They are God's stewards, caretakers of these precious lives. And here's something else to think about. Paul says in Colossians 3:20, "Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord." Once again, the focus is on pleasing God, not just pleasing parents. This tells us something really powerful. Every act of obedience, every little yes mom or okay dad, when done with a heart that wants to please God, is part of our worship. It's not just about being good boys and girls. It's about being faithful disciples, even as children. Now I know what you might be thinking. What about when you grow up? Does honoring your parents end once you turn 18? Not at all. Ephesians 6:2 reminds us, honor your father and mother, and that command doesn't come with an expiration date. Obedience looks different when you're grown. You may not have to follow house rules anymore, but the respect, love, and honor you show your parents should last a lifetime. One wise man said it this way: when we are little, we obey our parents because they stand in the place of God for us, guiding us until we are old enough to know God's will directly for ourselves. Isn't that a beautiful thought? God's design is that families would work together to raise faithful Christians, with parents teaching their children and children learning obedience, all within the Lord's greater plan. So next time you hear, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord," remember, it's not about power, it's about trust. It's about loving Jesus enough to listen to those he has placed over you, as long as you stay on the path of the Lord. And when you do that, you aren't just obeying your parents. You are walking hand in hand with Christ himself. What could be better than that?